So thanks for joining us. We're going to talk about the road ahead and what that looks like in terms of college. And so we'll do some brief introductions to begin with. I will go first, and then Julie will go right after me. So my name is Jasmine Estrada. I use she, her pronouns, and I work as an admission counselor at University of Puget Sound. This is I'm going into my third year as an admission counselor, and I work with students from Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho.
Hi, and I'm Julie Michener. I'm with the University of Tulsa in Oklahoma, and I've been an admission counselor here for just this past year, but I am also a TU grad student. I graduated in 2018 from the university, so I'm really familiar with it. And I work with some of the county in Oklahoma of Tulsa, and then I also work with all of the western states in the US.
Awesome. And then our colleague Annie is hopefully going to be joining us. Annie's having some tech problems with getting into our session, but we hope eventually she will join us as well. She's from Lake Forest College, and we are going to just briefly go into our institution so you have our context, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the college application and some college prep tips. All right, I'm going to go first. So I'm from University of Puget Sound, like I mentioned, and if you've never heard of that, great. If so, wonderful. Let's learn a little bit more. So we are located in Tacoma, Washington, and we are just south of Seattle. You would fly into the Seattle-Tacoma airport, which is about 30 minutes, 25 minutes from campus. And the flight is really easy. I just did it last week. And so we also have shuttles that can get you to and from campus. We are a national liberal arts institution, and those are two important components to a college profile. So when I say national, I'm talking about where all of our students come from. So 74% of our students are from outside of the state of Washington. And so that means everyone's going to be around on the weekends. Everyone's going to be on campus a lot because not many students are going to be traveling home frequently. We're a liberal arts, and all that really means is we are going to challenge you to study various academic disciplines outside of your interested area or designated major. We go for a full-rounded education in a holistic sense, and we are about 2,000 undergraduates with 200 graduate students, so we're very small, which means small class sizes and personal relationships with your teachers and peers. We're Division III in athletics and offer many sports: football, basketball, soccer, baseball, all that fun stuff. And then we have a lot of club teams as well. I want to highlight just really quick, we have a School of Business and a School of Music. If either of those are interested, that might be, we might be a good place for you. And then because of our size, conducting research, obtaining internships, and studying abroad is a bulk of what our students end up doing outside of the classroom. And then we're not going to get really into financial aid much in this presentation, but we do offer merit scholarships, which you do not apply for. They're just given to you automatically upon admission at Puget Sound, and they go up to $30,000. They're renewable over 4 years. So that's a very quick rundown of University of Puget Sound. I'm just going to check to see if Annie has joined us.
I did alert the command center, so they're resending the link.
Okay.
So they're at least aware that she's not with us yet.
Perfect. Well, I don't want to speak to her institution, but I will just leave this up so that we can review Lake Forest College. Similar profile, it looks to University of Puget Sound, just north of a different major city, and a lot of other information is looking very similar. So I'll just leave this up for just a little bit longer.
The piece I'm noticing from both of you is the merit-based scholarship. So thank you for pointing that out.
Absolutely. Yep. And there are other scholarship opportunities at our schools that you can apply with additional applications, but the merit scholarship is going to be with your acceptance. All right. So Julie, I'm going to go on to your slide and you can take it away.
Okay, so the University of Tulsa, we're right in the heart of Midtown Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is one of our two major cities in the state. We're about a 5-minute drive from downtown, and we're just right in the heart of everything. So you have the opportunity to go into those areas that have, we have our museums and galleries. We have a really lively art scene. We have a lot of music. So there's a lot for students to do in that realm. And then we have a lot of local businesses and a lot of restaurants and things. So a lot to do for students, but TU is kind of its own little bubble within the city. So when you're on campus, you kind of feel like you might be a little bit away from it all, which is nice. We're a private school. So our in-state and out-of-state tuition is the same. We don't differentiate between the two. We are also liberal arts. Again, we're also very focused on having a well-rounded education. So you might have your set career path, but you will take some courses and, maybe the humanities and maybe a science course, just so that when you leave, you're more well-rounded than when you came in. We have about 4,000 students. We're undergrad heavy. We have about 3,000 undergrads and 1,000 graduate students. And we have a pretty decently sized student, admission jargon is student to faculty ratio, but what that means is we have 11 students for every one faculty member. So we have smaller class sizes, which is nice for students wanting to get that more personalized education. We have kind of the umbrellas of study. We offer our engineering, business, health sciences, arts and sciences. Those are our undergraduate, and then we do have a grad school and a law school. So you could do pre-law, pre-med, nursing. I was in music and English at TU as a grad. So there's all kinds of stuff we offer there. Something a little out of the norm, we're Division I for athletics. We're actually the smallest school with a football team that's in Division I. So you kind of can get some of that big school feel, but it's definitely still a small school. Students get into games for free with their ID, so that's fun. And then we're very heavy on the research side of things. All of our faculty with their PhDs are required to stay focused in their research throughout their tenure. So they're very up to date with the academics. We have a lot of internship opportunities, and study abroad is also pretty important to us. Lastly, just as kind of one of those last statistics, we are offering a job placement guarantee starting this year, which basically means that if you go through your 4 years of college and within 6 months after graduation, you don't have a job in your field, or you don't have, or you haven't enrolled in graduate school, then you are going to get 6 credit hours of a master's degree for free at TU. So it's really a way to put our money where our mouth is. We really have a lot of care and support that goes into students being able to have a job right out of college. So we're really big on that.
Awesome. All right, let's, so that's a very brief overview of our institutions, and we can definitely talk more about that later if you have any questions. I know we went pretty quick through that, but what we really wanted to focus on is more college prep. As we understand, you all are not off to college as of right now. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about the timeline, which you see on this slide. And there are so many different parts of the year. I think of them as seasons of the type of activities that you all will be doing and opportunities that you may not know are available both at your high school or within Colorado. And so the college search itself. And so I don't know if you all have started thinking about where you want to go to school or how to even begin to look at that. You are interacting with 3, hopefully soon to be 3, but right now 2 admission counselors at different institutions. And we just want to share with you the overall timeline. And we will also talk a little bit about what's ahead for you when you are actually in the application phase of the college search. Okay, so researching colleges is going to be big, and there's no one size fit all in to do that. So you'll hear about colleges from maybe immediate family members or your peers. You'll get sent things in the mail. You'll get emails. Maybe you are, you're already set on a specific location, so you're going to look at schools in only that location. There are so many different ways to go about the college search and to figure out really what you want at a college. We're going to delve into how to make your college list specifically a little bit later. But Julie, do you want to talk a little bit about after the college search process?
Yeah. So let me make sure. Okay. After the college search, once you kind of have an idea of what schools you're interested in looking closer into, you're going to potentially start applying to those schools. A lot of schools, if you apply early enough, they don't have an application fee. So that's a big one for students. I know for most of us that, I know you can apply earlier than November, like this shows. I know we had applications open as early as, summer, August, September. But you basically will send in an application, whether it be the school application or one that more schools accept widely, like a common application is another one. But there's...
May I interrupt for 1 second?
Yeah.
I believe that we have Annie here, and I just wanted to give her a minute to introduce
Oh,
herself,
wonderful.
if that's okay.
Yeah.
Annie, can you hear me?
I'm so sorry I'm late. I was running into insane Zoom problems. I'm just so thankful I could actually join. Thank you so much for having us. My name is Annie Keller. I'm an admissions counselor at Lake Forest College. I'll be brief. I don't want to interrupt Julie as she's going through the admissions timeline, but this is kind of the overview on Lake Forest. We're located in Lake Forest, Illinois, a small residential community 30 miles north of Chicago. We're, very similar to the other institutions representing here. Private liberal arts institution, just about 1,600 students roughly. We have a large international student population, and we represent students from 44 states out of the country. We're D3 athletics, 98% career placement rate 6 months after graduation, which means 98% of our students within 6 months of graduation find a job, go to grad school, or pursue a post-collegiate career opportunity at that point. We offer research, internships, study abroad opportunities, as well as domestic study away programs in Chicago itself that focus on internships. We also offer up to $32,000 in merit-based scholarship. I'm also an alum of Lake Forest. I graduated in 2020, so really repping that Lake Forest pride. So if you have any questions, I hope to be the best resource for you. But yeah, that's me. I'm so sorry again for showing up late. Julie, I'll let you take it away again.
Great. We're just glad you're here. Okay, so yeah, you'll submit your application. Your high school will send an official transcript to the college, to the colleges you choose to apply to. And then, we really do recommend with that, get to know the school personally if you can visit, that kind of thing. A lot of times you might feel either at home or like it very much is not a good fit for you when you visit the campus. You'll meet with admission counselors. You'll kind of chat through what you're wanting out of the school, and your counselor can help you determine if it's a good fit and then how to, go about making it happen. And then with test scores, we'll get much more in depth about that later, but a lot of schools, because of all of the issues around COVID, a lot of them are test optional this year, which means that you're not required to submit a test score for admission. So if you have a test score that you're proud of, that you want to submit, you can, and these are just for the schools that are test optional. But you don't have to submit that ACT or that SAT unless you're proud of it and you're, excited to see what you can get with it for a scholarship and stuff like that. So that's kind of a brief overview of application.
Yeah, and I just want to say one positive thing that has come out of the pandemic that we're all going through is colleges and universities who had not been offering virtual ways to engage at a high level now are, and we're going to continue to do that from a higher ed perspective. And so you will be able to visit your college virtually. We recommend, if by the time that you apply and get in somewhere that you do eventually visit the campus. But those virtual offerings can be really helpful in earlier months as you're trying to decide where to apply. You can do virtual interviews. You can do a virtual campus tour. And then if you are visiting campuses, when you're on campus, you'll meet with current students. Some programs offer meetings with professors and coaches and current students. You can maybe go grab lunch in the dining area with a current student at various places. You can do an interview with an admission counselor. Those are different everywhere, but essentially is just a way for you to get to know the university a little bit better. And ask more like in-depth questions about perhaps a program. And so there's a lot of opportunity now in being able to both visit in person and virtually. And I just wanted to throw that out there as we all navigate, last year, a lot of offerings were virtual, and now we're more in like a hybrid situation with a lot of college campuses being now open for tours and whatnot. And so, Annie, is there anything before we move on from this slide that you wanted to touch on?
Did we go over test optional yet, or should we just wait for that in the FAQ?
We did briefly, just a tiny bit.
Yeah, then we can move on.
Okay, cool. All right. So college prep tips. Annie, do you want to kick us off here?
Sure. So generally, especially as 9th and 10th graders, it's kind of hard to visualize what the college search process will look like. We'll kind of go over how to start making your list and how to start like seeing what preferences of a school work best for you. But this is sort of like even before starting that list. These are some good tips to keep in mind. Let's say your whole family, if you are not first generation, went to larger public institutions, or maybe they all went to smaller private institutions. Have an open mind. You might have a better fit at a different institution than maybe many of your friends or family are going to, or it could be the same. So just having an open mind throughout the process is going to be really important and help set your expectations. This is not at all required, but it is recommended. Create a college search email specifically just for colleges. This will not only declutter your personal email inbox or your high school inbox, but it'll also help you keep track of the schools that you actually want to engage with later on. And make sure you check it. Oftentimes, especially the three of us being at slightly smaller schools, have a more individualized admissions process. Admission counselors will be reaching out to you on a one-on-one basis, not just mass emails. So it's important that you check it and make sure that you're engaging with your admissions counselor. Meet with your high school counselor at school. They might have some guidance on how to start the college search process, as well as seeing what your preferences are and suggesting schools that you might not have heard of. Make sure to communicate with your admissions counselor. That kind of goes with the second bullet that I covered. But just chatting with them, they're never going to judge you for asking questions. I certainly won't. So ask those questions, even if you feel that they are dumb questions. There's really no such thing when it comes to the college search process. Try attending admissions events. Even if this comes down later your junior and senior year, it might be useful to kind of see what types of offerings for different events are available. There are things like open houses. Some schools may actually overnight host you if you attend an open house, so you can actually see what the college is like both in the daytime and at night with any current students. They might also have just like information sessions, both virtually and in person, which differs a little bit from a general open house. Different open house opportunities may allow you opportunities to connect with faculty on campus, as well as current students, tour guides, and your admission counselor, of course. And along with that too, connecting with if you're really, really interested in a school and you really want to know what it's like, try connecting with current students. A lot of student ambassadors, which are tour guides, oftentimes at different schools that you'll be interacting with, want to hear from you. They want you to ask them questions about what their experience has been like. That's part of their job and they're happy to do it. So connect with those current students, see if you can reach out to faculty and departments that you're interested in, and maybe alumni, maybe staff members of the college community, just so you can see exactly, what you might be getting into later on. This step might also come later on, but it's something to start thinking about as you start engaging with the college search process. I already mentioned this last bullet too as well, but ask for help when you need it. It's super important, especially when it comes to financial aid. Financial aid is kind of difficult to navigate, so it's important that you're asking the right questions and making sure that the package that you get works best for you and your family.
Awesome. Thanks, Annie. I have nothing to add. You literally covered everything. That was fantastic. Julie, do you have anything to add? Good. Okay.
Really the only thing that I was thinking was with connecting with current students like those university ambassadors, those college ambassadors, a lot of them are volunteer based. So they do it because they enjoy that, they love the school and they really want to share their experience. So I just want to really take advantage of those current students who can get you information and be genuine about it.
Definitely. Yeah, and whether you are the first person going to college in your family or the fifth, your admission counselors are your main resource, and we desperately want to work with you and help answer questions. So if there's anything you take away from this session, it's work closely with your admission counselors. Okay, so college prep tips continued. So making your college list. Some of you could be doing this already. Some of you could have heard of the idea and maybe you're going to get to it next year or the year after. Whatever works for you, I just highly recommend, and I think I echo this, start before your senior year starts slightly. Now, you don't have to start at the beginning of your junior year, but definitely at some point in your junior year, start making your college list or start planning on when you're going to make that list. There are so many things that can go into your college list, and so we're going to talk just briefly about a few of those things. So the size of your institution, you're hearing from 3 smaller schools, and there are small schools, medium big, medium small, large. I mean, there are so many different types of institutions, and it's just cool to know at the undergraduate level how many students are going to be at an institution, and then a graduate level is always nice to know as well, especially in the graduate school offerings at a school that you could possibly be attending, that you may know, oh, this is a grad program I'm interested in. Like, if I want to go to grad school, that could be really nice. Something you can never change about an institution is its location. Colleges are where they are, and that means both regionally, but as well as where there are in like the specific city. And so it is important to think about what you're going to be doing outside of the classroom. And so you're not in class a ton of hours each week. You spend a lot of time in college writing papers, reading, studying. That's the bulk of what you're going to do in terms of your learning. And so thinking about, do you want to be in a bigger city? Do you want to be in a smaller city? This may not seem super important, but I promise you it can really make or break really just your experience if you haven't thought about that yet, or it could not. But I do know that when I went to school, I didn't really think much about what was going to be around me. It turned out fine because it was a similar environment to what I grew up in, but maybe you want something different. So just think about that. If you're going to be going out of state, where are airports? How are you going to get around if you don't have a car? How's the public transportation? All of that can really matter. There are so many different types of institutions. I have just named, or we have just named a couple here. We all come from private institutions. And so our schools are going to be a little bit more expensive compared to most public, but some public schools are going to be just as pricey as a private school if you're going out of state. So when I talk about when I talk about different types of schools, I also want to talk about there are religious types of schools, independent, that have no religious affiliation. There are historically Black colleges and universities, Hispanic serving institutions, technical schools, trade schools. And so as you're thinking, yeah, I want to go to college, just note that there are so many different types of institutions that provide both similar and different experiences. But my big takeaway from here is you'll want to feel as if you are a part of a community and that you belong somewhere. And so think about that when you're navigating the type of institution. Academic programs offered, make sure that you talk to an admission counselor if you don't see maybe a program or a major that you think you may want to go into. We could still have it. Universities and colleges can call academic programs slightly different things, or maybe you think you want to go into criminal justice and you don't see that, but there's actually a program called Equity and Justice that's exactly the same curriculum. So always ask about majors and programs. And then price and financial fit is so critical to be thinking about. Colleges are expensive. To go to college is expensive, and it's getting more and more expensive. And each institution is going to have their own financial aid program and offer different types of scholarships. There are need-based institutions that can be typically more selective, but can cover most of your education. And so definitely look into the different types of aid offered. And keep in mind, whether you're going to be paying for college on your own or you're going to be getting help from somewhere, make sure that you have a good understanding of what it could cost each year to go to a school you're interested in. This will only help you later down the road if you're accepted and you get your financial aid award. Julie or Annie, does one of you want to talk about the college application and add anything to making a college list? I feel like I've been talking for a while.
Sure, I can go over it briefly. So oftentimes schools will have a school-specific application that you can find on their website, or you can find them through the Common Application. The Common App is very useful because it's sort of a one and done, which means that you can fill out one application and apply it to several different institutions that are also using the Common App. So that could be a good opportunity, especially if you plan on applying to multiple schools. It can just save you some time in the long run. The high school transcript is also required, sort of a key piece to the college application. This will be for both the Common App and school-specific applications that you'll find on their websites. An essay is usually required. I know some schools require multiple small essays. The Common App will usually have multiple prompts, and you can pick one of the prompts to write for each college. Any supplemental materials, this sort of encapsulates letters of recommendation, SAT or ACT scores. Again, there's also test optional, and we'll kind of chat about that more in detail later, as well as additional essays that may be required. So yeah, those are just some supplemental materials that maybe you might have to see later on, including interviews too. Sometimes those are required. At Lake Forest, we require an interview if you are applying test optional. However, it is not required if you are submitting test scores. So those are some things to keep an eye out for. Fee waivers can also be available. The Common Application might have a fee. Every institution is different in this regard. Some applications are fully free. Some require a small deposit in order to apply. I see this a lot with like larger institutions sometimes, but it could vary depending on the school that you're seeing. So sometimes based on your financial situation, you could apply for a fee waiver to waive the application fee. Anything to add, Julie or Jasmine?
I'm going to move us along for time reasons. Julie, do you want to cover FAFSA really quick?
Yeah. So what is the FAFSA? It's an acronym and it stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. Basically what it is a application that takes into account parents' tax information to determine need-based funding for you. So it is only for US citizens and permanent residents. So international students can't apply to the FAFSA. But it does offer you all of the funding that you might need. Based on your income, it shows you what funding is potentially available to you between grants, loans, or work study opportunities. You actually indicate if you're wanting to participate in work study at your colleges on the FAFSA. So a lot of times when I was in college, I submitted the FAFSA for all 4 years. You resubmit every year, and it accounts for the previous year's income. So 2 years prior to your school year. So in this upcoming 2022 season, it'll look at 2020 income. It opened on Friday. I know for you guys being younger, it doesn't matter so much, but the earlier you apply, the better. The earlier you submit that application, because there will be funding that, especially in the grants, that will run out first come, first served basis. So the earlier you submit, the more funding that will be available to you. And then typically we recommend you complete that prior to the new year so that we can get those financial aid packages out, in the spring, so you guys can make your decisions and have time to think about it.
Excuse me. I just wanted to point out that as the program was scheduled, we have about 5 or 6 more minutes. Are there many more slides that you wanted to cover, so we have a few minutes for questions? I think we can go about 5 minutes over so that you're not late for your next commitment. But I just wanted to give you a heads up on the time.
Awesome. This is our last slide before our question and answer. So I appreciate that. So what all 3 of us have mentioned test optional at some point. And prior to the pandemic, this has always been a conversation amongst admission and higher education, but it really was heightened once ACT and SAT testing places were really inaccessible for most of the seniors who were graduating throughout the pandemic. And so many schools were flipped to doing a test optional who may have not been test optional prior. I work at an institution that has been test optional for almost 10 years. And so what that means is we want, and schools who are test optional want to see your best academic self. And sometimes that is through your test scores and sometimes it's not. And test optional gives students more of an option to highlight academically who they are as scholars. And so test optional can work a little different at each institution. Sometimes, as Annie mentioned, there might be an interview that's required or a short supplemental answer or nothing. So each school, it'll just depend. A way to gauge whether or not you should submit your test scores or not is each school has an average range of test scores. If you fall below that range, we recommend going test optional if you are able to. And if it's slightly below, talk to your admission counselor. It may still be worth submitting them. And then each school is going to do their financial aid a little differently. And so at my institution, we don't factor in test scores to merit scholarships, but other institutions do. And we used to, and we've moved away from that practice. So checking in if you're unsure is definitely what you should do once you're at that phase in your college search. Anything else from my co-presenters before we go to question and answer?
No, we're good.
All right, so I will leave this slide up just for a second so you have our email addresses, and we are happy to go into any questions that you may have in the last few minutes, and thank you for joining us.
I have a question. So this is kind of going based off of like once you've gotten all of your applications turned in and some colleges have accepted you, but what time or like what period would you say would be the best to decide what college you're going to based on the colleges that accepted your application?
That's a good question. I can jump in. Really, it's kind of up to your personal timeline on when to make a decision. Like we saw in the admissions timeline slide, the national decision day is May 1st, so definitely before then. But I know some students that make their choice November of their senior year, and I know some students that make their choice April 30th. So it can look really different. I think something you'll have to consider is if you're a student athlete, it may look differently. For example, football players have a sort of college signing day in February. So oftentimes, not all the time, they want to make a decision before then. So it'll depend on your personal timeline. Like whenever, if you want to move through the admissions process faster, it's fine to make a decision in the fall. But you don't have to commit to a college, which would imply submitting a deposit and actually saying, yes, I am going here. I'm forfeiting all of their offers until May 1st.
Yeah, and I would just say it can be really helpful to apply to all of your schools at the same time if able, because what holds students up is waiting to hear back from an institution because their application, you may be submitted a month later. And so you'll want to have all of your options and financial aid awards in front of you in order to do that. And so the earlier, the better.
Thank you, Willa. That was a terrific question. I would encourage anybody else who has one, whether you are a parent or a student, to take advantage of this very small and intimate setting with the counselor.
When is the best time to start like scholarship applications?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that is something that, and Julie or Annie, please jump in. I would say the beginning of your senior year is a really good time. Typically applying for those scholarships, you have to do that during your high school senior year. And so maybe even August prior or late summer going into your senior year, definitely be looking at outside scholarships and those applications. Would either of you add in anything more?
I would just add that you may even just talk to your high school counselors about local scholarships available, because I know at my high school when I was 17, they had a whole entire, part of the year that was dedicated to helping students with scholarship finding. So yeah, I definitely agree, beginning of your senior year, but I'd take advantage of the high school counselors, see what they can help you with in that regard.
Yeah, and you can start researching earlier, but typically you can't apply for them in your sophomore year, but you can definitely make a list of what you plan to apply for if you're feeling like you want to get a jump start on that.
Thank you.
May I ask a question as well, or are there any other students out there? Nope. Okay. I had a question as it pertains to rigor and what would appear to be each and every academic year becoming more and more competitive. And I'm just wondering, are there areas that you would encourage our students to consider when they're selecting their classes?
Yeah, I'll start. This can look a little different at each institution, but overall, colleges and universities do like to see rigor on your transcript, and that can mean a variety of different things. So if your high school offers AP courses, if you go to an IB high school, those two are really good. You don't have to be full AP, you don't have to be full IB, but having those advanced courses is really good in the college search process. Dual credits, and so if your high school has programs in which you can take some dual credits that can later transfer in, those are also really great, and colleges and universities love to see those as well. Aside from that, language is going to be for various schools a point in which you'll want to think about do you want to do a language all 4 years or 3 years? Some schools are okay with 2 years, typically 1 year. I'm not sure that I've seen that a lot. And so consider your language requirement. It's not necessary to do it all 4 years for most schools, but some schools it might be. So just looking into that. And then Julie and Annie, do you want to comment in your experience?
Yeah, I'll just add that lots of colleges, including like Forest, have a really holistic approach to the application process. So we like to see at least like 4, AP, IB, or dual enrollment credits, could be any combination throughout your 4 years of high school. More is great. If you have less than that, though, it's not, make or break. If I see a student that has, maybe 1 AP class in their 4 years of high school, but they're very involved in their community, they're doing lots of clubs and organizations, they're sort of a student leader, that's gonna make a difference for me. Or a number of things, we look at the entire application. So it's not like a make or break at a lot of institutions, but it is a really good thing to see a lot of those higher level courses, including honors too. Honors level courses are just as important as well.
Yeah, and I have one more thing to add too. With those advanced classes and, concurrent enrollment with college, dual enrollment, something else that's kind of a side benefit to those is with the transfer credits that can start you off with a leg up in college, credit wise. So that gives you an opportunity. Say you come in with 30 credit hours of transfer credit. That could start you off as technically a sophomore. You could graduate early, or you could maybe tack on a double major or be able to study abroad longer than you might have thought you could, stuff like that. So those classes that you're taking in your upperclassmen years of high school really can help to change, shift your focus in college.
Terrific. I will probably take this opportunity to say thank you to all of our families for attending, and also to our wonderful college reps. You guys have been very, very informative and forthcoming with all of the information about your schools. And again, we had Jasmine here from the University of Puget Sound. We did get Annie from Lake Forest College, and then also Julie from the University of Tulsa. If you wanted to reach out, please make sure that you either took a picture or noted the information for how best to reach them on that previous slide. But again, thank you. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Take care.
Thank you, Anna.
My pleasure.